Okay, so today we're going to talk about graphing and writing linear equations. So a linear equation is an equation whose graph is the line. So we've been dealing with those already. We did the y equals kx, and those created lines. Solutions for an equation are points that are on the line. So it's like if you put an x in, what you get for a y and what those coordinates are. So if you use the graph below, it will show you the solutions. So if we look right here, hold on, let me get the highlighter. So if we look right here, this is our line. That's the line that we made from our linear equation. Here is your linear equation, okay? And we made the line by plugging different numbers in. So we plugged an x in and got a y, and then we wrote coordinates. So for example, if I said x was -1, I'd plug it in for x up here. -1 plus 1 is 0. That's what our y would equal. Then you would graph the point -1, 0, and so on. So let's go ahead and we'll try that with the next one. I left some area open for you to write in hopes that you would get the hang of it. So in here in the middle, you can put -2 y equals -2. Okay, we can put y equals -2x plus 1. Okay, so now we pick any x or y that we want. So I prefer to have one on the negative side, one on the 0, and then one on the positive side. So I might do -2 to make it interesting, and I might do 0 and 2, okay? So I'm going to plug in -2, so it's going to, for x, so -2 times -2 plus 1, okay? So all I did was I took my x and I plugged it in. So now -2 times -2 is 4, plus 1 gives us +5. So then our coordinates are x is -2, y is 5. Okay, so let's try that with the next one. So again, we're going to plug it into the x, -2 times 0 plus 1. Well, any number times 0 is 0. So we have 0 plus 1, which is 1. So we have 0, 1 for our coordinates. Okay, so if we go on to the third one, you have -2 times 2 plus 1. So -2 times 2 is -4, plus 1 gives us -3. Okay, now you're going to graph these points. So we'll start with the first point. So -2, 5. So go -2. So over -2, and then up +5, and then put your dot. And I think that's right about there. Oops. Okay, and then our next point is 0, 1. And then our point after that, oops, I forgot to write that, is going to be 2, -3. So over 2, down 3, probably right there. Okay, and then you go ahead and you just draw the line that goes on there. So, whoops. Obviously your line will probably be much straighter than mine. So that is how you would do that. The only things you have to do right now is graph those equations. So let's go to the next part. Okay, so we're going to try this problem here. We're going to work through it the same way that we worked through the other one. We will write the 1/2 x minus 3. So we're going to use the points -2, 0, and 2. And I want you to go ahead and try that on your own, and we'll see if we have the same answer. Okay, so let's check and make sure that we have the same X's and Y's. We got our X's, those should have been set, and then your Y's. Remember, when you're multiplying 1/2, so you're doing 1/2 times -2, that's going to give us just -1. And -1 minus 3 is -4. So hopefully that wasn't too big of an issue. I think you just need to put it in the calculator. So let's go ahead and graph that. I'll give you a second to graph it, and then we'll look over it together. All right, so that's what we should have for our graph. And let's go ahead and we'll go down below to the next section. The next part talks about graphing horizontal and vertical lines. So horizontal lines, it's like a horizon. The way I like to remember it is the horizon, that's where the sun sets. So there's our little sun. Okay, so every time that you have that, you're going to have y equals some number. And every time that that happens, it's going to be right there at the same spot as you see here. Then when we have a vertical line, vertical goes this way, then you're going to have x equals some number, okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll go below and we will try to do those. I still like to try to give them a graph or try to graph the problems because then it puts me in the mind frame of understanding what I need to do. So if I have an x and a y, they're telling me automatically that y equals 4. So no matter what number I put in, y is going to be 4. So I could do -2, and y is still going to be 4. If I do 0, y is still going to be 4. And if I do 2, y is just going to be 4. So no matter what, your y is just going to be 4. So if I graph that, I'll go -2, 4, and I'll put a dot. Not really in the right spot. Okay, and then 0, 4, and then 2, 4. And as you see, it's all right there on the line, and that is our horizontal line. Okay, so if we go over to this one here, we're going to graph on x equals -1. Like I said, I just like to double check that what I'm doing is right. So x, y. Okay, so if I say no matter what, my x is -1, no matter what happens. So my y, I could say is -2, 0, and 2. Okay, so over -1, down -2, over -1, 0, over -1, up 2. And no matter what, every single point is going to be on that line right there. Okay. So now let's try this in a word problem of sorts. So it says the wind speed y in miles per hour of a tropical storm is y equals 2x plus 66. So there's our equation. They're giving it to us, where x is the number of hours after the storm enters the Gulf of Mexico. Graph the equation, then determine when the storm becomes a hurricane. Okay, so first thing is I accidentally left the numbers there. We shouldn't have had any numbers there. And we should be able to write different numbers in. So the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 on the x-axis, that's fine. But we need to fix the y-axis. So we're just going to put numbers to the side. It's not a big deal. It's not going to matter too much. So we're going to change the numbers on the x-axis or the y-axis. So we're going to go by tens because that will be the best number to go by. And when you do your own word problem, you can decide what numbers might be the best to go by. So we'll make these zeros, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, and 100. And then you're going to have to set up your X and Y chart. And I would pick maybe 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and maybe 5. And you're going to plug those into the equation. So every time you see x, you're going to plug in the 0. So 2 times 0 plus 66 is 66. Go ahead and fill in the rest of those, and then we can see if yours match. Okay, so those are the numbers that you should have. And they want to know when the storm becomes a hurricane. And I found out through Google that a storm becomes a hurricane at 74 miles per hour. So the last thing you're going to need to do is graph this equation and then determine at what point it becomes a hurricane. Okay, there's your graph, and hopefully you have that it becomes a hurricane at 4. So after 4 hours, it will become a hurricane. Okay, you guys can go down to the bottom of this, and it tells you exactly what your homework is. You can work on that for the rest of the class period. Have a good day.